When it comes to building websites, two of the most important skills to have are hosting and setting up a contact form so that users can get in contact with the business owner. In this video, I'm going to be looking at how to host a website and set up a contact form for a Next.js application using Amazon Web Services. So what I've got here is my website. For myself, I've just been rebuilding it basically, and it's pretty much ready. All I need to do now is set up a contact form and host it. So I'll give you a quick scroll through. It's pretty simple. Just got a little bit of animations and whatnot. And down here is a contact form, and right now it as we'll see, it does nothing. So that's what we're going to solve. We're going to solve this issue to make sure that this contact form submits, and then once I'm happy with that, I'm going to host it. And so we're going to be using Amazon Web Services. Now, if you're using React or Vue or any JavaScript framework, there's three really good options. I guess more than three, but three that I think are the most prominent. One is Vercel, which is really, really great. The other one is Netlify, which is very similar to Vercel and also really great. And then we have AWS Amplify. Now, AWS Amplify is a little bit more complex, but in my opinion, it's worth it for the fact that you get more freedom and flexibility. Vercel and Netlify basically build on top of cloud services like Amazon Web Services to provide a really user-friendly, easy, and powerful service when it comes to all kinds of back-end issues, and particularly web hosting. AWS Amplify basically provides React apps, Vue apps, and other things like that with a way to connect with Amazon Web Services key services relating to hosting, databases, serverless functions, and more. And I'm going to be using it for my website, and I wanted to make a video about it as I set it up because I believe it's really powerful and more people should give it a try. It's worth watching this video if you get a chance. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Well, first things first, the contact form obviously needs to be developed. So here's the code for it. So basically what I have here is a contact form, of just basic HTML. This is the code in React for this contact form. What we need to do is we need to set up a method that will take the form fields, and then what we need to do is connect it with AWS to handle the form submission and send an email to me. So that's what we're going to do now, is write the code. Okay, so there's many different ways that you can go about handling a form submission in React, and the way I'm going to do it in this tutorial is just using useState, storing the different fields in the state, and just using a submit function. And again, there's many different ways to do it, and if you prefer to do it a different way, it doesn't really matter, as long as the data from the form is getting submitted. That's all that matters. So right now I'm just going to set that up. So first things first, we don't need this form action and method. I'm just going to use a onSubmit handler and a method called handleSubmit. So it's just going to be basically an async method. It's going to take E, the event parameter, and because I'm using TypeScript, I got to give the type, which is a React form event, and just going to call e.preventDefault. Next thing that we need is to store, using useState hook, to store form input and set form input. And because I'm using TypeScript, I've created an interface for the types for the fields of the form, which is just name, email, and the message for the contact message. Then what we need to do is just provide the default values. So name is going to be empty, email is going to be empty, and message is going to be empty as well. Alright, so now what we need to do is go down to the input elements and just make sure that they're being managed properly with the value. So in this case for the name input, it's using the form input.name, and then we just need an onChange handler which takes the event, and calls the set form input, destructures the existing form input, and just updates the name value using e.target.value. And then we just need to do that for each of the inputs. There's the value, the onChange handler for email, and then for message. Okay, so right now this is looking pretty good, and I recommend using something like this initially: alert JSON.stringify form input. So it's just a way for you to check that the form data is working, and we can do that. But one thing I want to do first is just create a variable for loading, just so that we can handle when this method's in a loading state, so that we can display that to the user. So when this method's called, set loading true, and then you can do all kinds of different things for this. I'm just going to go disabled for each of the values. So disabled equals loading, so these inputs are disabled when the form's in a loading state, and we can do that for the button as well. Cool. All right, so let's give this a try. Here it is. I'm going to go name, just going to go Dan. Email can just be dan@gmail.com. Message can be, hey, this is a message. We click submit, and there we go. Name, Dan, email, Dan@gmail, message, hey, this is a message. So basically, right now we know that the form's being submitted, and like I said, you can do this any way you want. The key part now is going to be adding the email handler using an API. Okay, so right now we've set up a component for the contact form, and it just has a name, email, and a message, just a general contact form. And we've got a method which takes the data from the form, and right now it just uses an alert to show us that it's there. What we need to do is connect it with a backend so that the details from the form get sent to an appropriate email address. So this is just a general contact form and a really common use case. And as I've said before, there's many different ways that you can approach this, but in this video we're going to be using AWS Amplify. So AWS Amplify, we can see here, build extensible full stack web and mobile apps faster, easy to start, easy to scale. And the thing I really like about AWS Amplify is basically that it can be used for little basic blog sites or portfolio sites, really small things like that, all the way to a full-on mobile application. And so you can start something small and scale it. And it connects with the gold standard of the cloud, Amazon Web Services, various different services. So right now, if you click this button, it's going to take us to Amplify Studio. Now what Amplify Studio is it provides a nice user interface for setting up your application in Amplify. And you can see here there's the hosting, authentication, file storage functions, and whatnot. It's really, really interesting, really useful, really powerful. The key thing you need is an actual AWS account set up. What we're going to be doing instead, and you still need an account for this, is using their CLI, which can be found here. Yeah, so as we can see, Amplify Studio is the user interface, or the Amplify CLI. This is just a CLI you can use locally on your computer to set up your application. So if you're wanting to check this out yourself, just click that. And there's different libraries. There's obviously iOS, Android, and Flutter for mobile. JavaScript in our case, or in my case, if you're making a website. And they have various, different services and whatnot. Yeah. You can see like analytics uses Amazon Pinpoint and Amazon Kinesis. We click API, GraphQL. You can see it uses the AWS AppSync GraphQL service. So it's super duper powerful. And what I want to get to is the CLI aspect of this. So docs.amplify.aws/CLI. And we'll click it, get started. Yep. Okay, so to set up the CLI to use locally, if you're following along, you're just going to use npm install, G for global, at AWS Amplify /CLI. Now I've already stored it myself, so I'm not going to do that. And then the first thing you need to do, and this video is really great for following this, is once it's been installed, you're going to go to your terminal, copy, and go Amplify Configure. And what that's going to do is help you to set up a local profile connected to your Amazon Web Services account so that you can, I guess, be authenticated to use their services. It previews basically a series of questions and answers that you can use to set up your account. And I've already set mine up, so I'm not going to be doing that right now. But yeah, it's really quite simple if you follow along here. So then once that's all been done, we use this command, amplify init, to set up your project to be an Amplify app. And so I'm going to be doing that right now. So I'm just closing the terminal for the server. Okay, so just make sure that you are in the project that you know, the project that you're working on for this, and then just go amplify init. Okay, so then it gives you an opportunity to give the project a name. In my case, I'm going to call mine Still Scripts website. This is really cool. It detects basically everything that you're using, and I think I'm gonna have to change a couple of things because I'm using Next.js. So I'm gonna say no. Dev is the environment. Visual Studio Code. I'm using JavaScript. I'm using React. Next isn't an option. The source directory path is .src. And the distribution directory path, in my case, is going to be .next. The build command is fine to use the default. And start, likewise. Okay, so once it's set that up, you then can use your AWS profile, which you've just set up, or AWS access keys. In my case, I'm going to be using AWS profile. And I've got a couple set up, but I'm going to be using Still Scripts. And now basically, yeah, it's setting that up in the cloud. It's getting, you know, setting up the configuration for this project in AWS Amplify, so that you can start adding AWS services. So I think this takes a little bit of time, so I'll continue on once it's finished.